by thanking the leadership of Miles University for the invitation to give a keynote today. Fortunately, due to the fact that my itinerary already positioned me in London way months in advance, I couldn't be there physically. I'm super excited to be able to share with technology with everyone. I want to welcome you to this leadership conference. I want to congratulate all the new awardees that have been awarded doctorate degree today. Congratulations to you all. My topic today my job is very simple: examine how leadership practice contribute to creating a positive and inclusive organizational structure. And I will be sharing a few things I've learned over the years. I will share a story about my mother. One of the first early example of leadership was my late mother, who passed on many years ago to ovarian cancer. But I saw leadership with my mother. My mother worked with a civil service organization called NEPA, PACN. They generated electricity. My mother was an accountant. She was a junior accountant. And I watched people come serve, do NYC. And my mother will do cake at Sandford when they were leaving, after their 1 year. And I used to be really surprised because my mother wasn't the leader of the account department. In fact, there was never a time in our 32 years of serving NEPA, she was never the head of her team. But I saw her show leadership by genuinely including casual staff, NYC corps members who have just come to work in our department for a year. I see how she creates a very inclusive system. And I see her do the same even with our cousins when they come visit. She wasn't a rich woman. Many times our own school fees hasn't been paid. But my mother will be looking for how to contribute towards paying the tuition of the children of our own brothers. And I could see that leadership isn't about title. Leadership begins with where you are right now. We're all leaders. The title may not help, but you're already a leader. You're leading people right now where you are. The question is, how inclusive are you? What strategy are you using to make sure that you create a very strong organizational structure? And how are you innovating as a leader? How are you improving as a leader? I think that's the real question. And for me, I've looked at how the subject of leadership is one of the most difficult subjects, because in my own journey and quest of being a better leader, I've realized that some of what we read are not always as easy in practice. For example, some of us have read, every organization will take the shape of the leader. That's true, and I'm not saying it's not true. But they didn't tell you that it might take you 10 years before the organization start looking like you. Somebody visited our company many years ago, and it was to speak. It was a guest speaker to speak to us. And so he was in the boardroom. And then when it was his turn, we invited him in to come and do his session. And he said, I found two cultures in this company. He said, I saw the culture of your chairman, and I saw your own culture. And he went on to talk. But I was very surprised because I've invited other consultants and they just give me the typical textbook talk. Oh, leadership is the leader, the follower. The people follow and they go all over. But for the first time, I saw somebody who really understood what I was going through, because there was a different culture I brought into the organization. But because my employees were more than me, sometimes the culture that is the corporate culture is reflective of them and not me. And for the first time, I got a consultant who could point that out. And he told them, he said, your culture is affecting the culture of this company because the owner is one person. You guys are more than 20. Many years later, I remember asking him, I said, how did you figure that out? Because most people do not. And he said, while you kept me in your boardroom and you had a prep session before inviting me, he said, because our doors were not locked, he said, I actually went around the company. I went to the offices of the staff. I saw some of them have eaten and they left their unwashed plate in their office. I saw some of them, have their laptop, badly positioned in a way that it can even fall and collapse. I saw some of them drop their chargers anyhow. So I then went to your own office and I saw everything properly arranged. I knew there was two cultures operating in the company. So I am accepting that leadership is not as easy as it is in the textbook. Many of us here are already leaders. And like we said, leadership is not even the title. We're all leaders. But have these people we're leading come to the realization that they are leaders themselves and that they eventually shape the collective image of the company? And have you as a leader been able to teach those who are working with you to know that they are leaders and their contribution matter and that their image eventually impact on the entire image of the organization? So I have 4 questions for us here today in this presentation. The first one is, what are your philosophies and how universal are they? Because I realized that sometimes we, the leaders, okay, I remember we say we're all leaders, right, have a myopic philosophy. We have a regional philosophy. Some of us have a religious philosophy. Some of us have a cultural philosophy, meaning our philosophies are not universal. You see, your philosophy has to pass the test of universality, meaning it should be something we can practice. If you're a Christian, but I'm a Hindu or I'm a Muslim, I should be able to practice your leadership philosophy, right? Your leadership philosophy should be effective in Africa the same way it's effective in China, the same way it's effective in the US or in Australia or Singapore. How universal is your philosophy? I've seen leaders who have failed to create a very structured organization because they are not inclusive. And the reason why they are not inclusive is because their philosophy says that it's only people from certain cultural or ethnic group that can deliver in a certain way. And I have found that not to be true. In our organization, for example, people of other tribes are even more than people from my own tribe. And because in our organization, it's what you deliver that matters. We don't care about your color. I'm a strong Christian and I'm proud to be a Christian. I'm proud to be a Yoruba man, but I don't care if you're Yoruba or Christian. I don't even care if you attend my church. If you don't bring value to the table in our company, you'll be shown the way out. The sentiment does not pass the day I discovered that, we're a church member, congrats, nice, and then give you the salutation. It ends there. Your contribution determines how far you go in our organization. And I think that is because I had to work on having a universal philosophy of productivity. I wanted a philosophy that we can open our company in Dubai, that is an Islamic country, that is a Sharia country, and perform. Our first year in Dubai, our sales surpassed what we did in an entire 10 years in Nigeria, right? Because it means it was a testament that my leadership philosophy is universal. Because we Christian staff were minority in our Dubai operations. and yet we're able to do exceptionally well, even becoming the largest black-owned brokerage firm in the first 1 year of being there. So you can grow your organization, but the first thing is, how universal is your philosophy? Do you even have one? And then if you have one, can you begin to have them pass through the test of universality? Because your company will never grow beyond the universal nature of your leadership philosophy. If your nature says, well, this is a Yoruba company, okay, meaning that company's destiny is most likely going to be regionalized to people of that ethnic group. But if your leadership philosophy says this is a global company and people from all color, from all tribe can work here, and they will be treated based on the quality value they bring to the table. Number 2, because of time, what are your leadership practices and how do they align with your family values? So I realize that some leaders have separate rules for treating members of their family and a separate rule from how they treat their workers. And I think this is where the problem is. Your organization needs to be treated like a family. You have to ask your children, yourself, if my children are working for me in this company, are they satisfied with the rules that works here, with the rule that is governing here? I once met a man, very rich, done transaction in excess of $100 billion. He's into oil business. And his children, to my surprise, 3 boys, were working as employees in another country. And the first one was about to start working for him. So I went to his office in Nigeria, and I remember asking the first one, I said, so what's going on? What's the plan? You want to join the family business? He was just smiling, didn't say anything. Later, the father opened up to me and said, well, he's done working in a bank and made sure he had to work in a bank for over 4 years. I did him to understand finance and banking and funding. He said, now I'm sending him to my friend in South Africa. He's going to work there for a while. Then I'm sending him to this other person. Then after that, he can now come and start working with me. And I've told him, this seat is my seat. And if he wants to earn it, because I'm not ready to leave it for him, he has to start as a junior employee and work his way up. Wow. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, that's leadership. And that's what you call inclusive leadership. Because he's so done it well that the rules are the same even for his own children. And that is a leadership, a strategy, a positive, leadership that ultimately will create a great structure for the company. Do you have a leadership structure that is the same with how you treat your family member? The same way with how your employees are treated. Number 3 is, what legacy will your leadership practice today have in the next 1,000 years? What are the practices you're putting in place now that will pass through the test of time, will last years after you're gone? We all can look back and say, wow. In Nigeria, where I'm from, there's a man called Awolowo. We even have a whole award that is being celebrated because his type of leadership, which was big on education, big on raising leaders, was amazing. That is hundreds of years now, we're still celebrating one man called Awo. Hundreds of years of his existence. If he were to be alive, he'd be over 100 years old. Right, and I'm believing that over 1,000 years, people still talk about the role of Awo. We have Abraham Lincoln in America. These are people who said certain things that has lasted centuries. We have Martin Luther King. I have a dream. I have a dream. I have a dream, because leadership begins with a clear-cut, clearly communicated vision. Leadership begins with a clearly communicated vision. The question is, what vision are you communicating that will last 1,000 years? What practices are you instituting in your organization that will last 1,000 years? We can see what's going on with China, right? With, what somebody came into leadership and started putting something in place. We can see what's happening with Singapore, with Lee Kuan Yew. Okay? What legacy will your practice today leave behind?
In conclusion, national and global transformation is a sum total of individual leadership practice in our various places. As the saying goes, you lead well, you live well. I'll wrap up with this story, two stories. The first was that of our CSO, Chief Security Officer in our company. He was new to our organization, and our company had sponsored a leadership conference in Abuja, and I was a speaker at that conference. Also, I had other private engagement. And the day I was to depart Abuja coincided with the day some of our leaders were to leave Abuja as well. And I remember asking my executive assistant what was the capacity of the private jet that was supposed to return me to Lagos. And they told me it could take 8 people. I said, well, we have other leaders here, let them join us. And we flew down to Lagos. And while we were landing, the new CSO said something very powerful. He said, I had worked with the Nigerian police for 35 years before retiring to join your company. He said the Nigerian police have a private jet, and they also have a chopper. More than one helicopter. He said, but in my 35 years, I've never seen, talk less of entering a private jet. GTEx as a group of companies doesn't even have a private jet yet. But by the fact that you, the leader, fly a private jet occasionally, you were kind enough to have us on this jet. And I've just joined you for 1 week. I'm already flying in a private jet. And he said, thank you for this. For me, nothing shows an inclusive leadership like that. I was very humbled, but it taught me that we're on the right path in creating the kind of leadership where people know that if they work with you, they also enjoy with you. A true leader knows where he's going and is able to show those working with him, leading with him, where he's going. Because true leadership begins with a clearly communicated vision. But more importantly, a good leader, a true inclusive leader, is able to show the people what is also a need for them when we get to the other side. That this is not just about what is a need for me, your leader, it's in what is a need for all of us. The second story is that of a young intern had gone to speak at our Ikoyi office to the staff. And occasionally when I'm in the Ikoyi office, I realize she doesn't smile. And smiling and being cheerful is very important to me. In fact, you can't work with me if you are not of a good countenance. You have to I tell people, drop your salt at the gate of my office. So we're having a training with them. And I got to address them, and I noticed she was still up this frowny face. I remember saying to her, what's wrong with you? She said, I have migraine. I said, then go to the hospital. I said, well, I've gone many times using the company's HMO. And this company sponsored medical services. But, we couldn't detect what's wrong. I'm still having the headache. I said, well, can we sponsor a higher, full comprehensive test? And of course, this was above her pay grade. She was just an intern. And we had to pay, I think, over $500 extra. And the test was done, and it was discovered that she had a virus that had gotten up to this point, and that the next phase was the virus to get to her brain, and that if she had entered her brain, she will be dead in a matter of weeks. what was funny was that it was a treatable virus. And of course, she was able to use her medication and it was all gone. I remember when she resumed and she said, my dad prayed for you when he heard about this. And he just kept praying for you. He said, now she has a smile on her face. I said, even me, I didn't appreciate what you did for me until my dad was really, really almost in tears that you saved his daughter's life. That, to me, is what leadership is all about. Particularly inclusive leadership. Some leaders will say, but she's an intern. Everybody is important. Everybody matters. Everybody must be carried along, because you ultimately cannot get to the promised land alone. And sometimes the most important people in helping you get there are the ones who don't look like it. I'm into real estate. I'm into land business. My driver has saved me many times. Many times. He's given me good counsel many times. But do you consider your driver important enough? Are you inclusive in your leadership to add even your driver into the think tank? And when you start practicing this, I think some things will begin to change. I'm excited that I have a book on leadership and I'm giving it to you free of charge. You can download it. Just scan the QR code attached to this video. Fill the form and the soft copy will be immediately sent into your email. You can check your spam in case it's on your inbox. After you fill it, it's automatic. And I also have a column in the form where I want you to rate this speech and give me feedback of the impact of this keynote address. Once again, thank you to Miles University. Congratulations to the awardees. Congratulations to all of you for being part of this leadership conference in Ghana. I love you all and hope to see you soon. I'll be in Ghana myself in April for our CEO retreat, and I look forward to hopefully seeing some of you there as well. I love you. I'm Dr. Stephen Akintayo, Chairman GTEx Holdings. Bye-bye.